Hi, I'm Sunny Goldberg, and welcome to Know Your Neighbors. I am wearing my sunglasses today because we are doing a show, my absolute favorite show, Beach Reads, Summer Reads, and I am sitting here very excited to talk to Laura Eckley, who is the director of the Larchmont Library, and Susan Riley, the Mamaroneck Library director. Thank you, ladies, for coming again. It is, you know, we were talking to Dina. I've gotten all kinds of calls. When are you doing the beach read? I need the whole list. So thank you for coming on. And let's start right out. Laura, what are you thinking?
All right. Well, my first...
I'm taking my glasses off.
I'm taking my glasses
All
off.
right.
Me too. My first two books are for summer, not necessarily for the beach, but they are entertaining and hostess books because I'm sure...
Yeah, well, this is the time you do it.
Lots of people get invited to visit
and the
over
4th
the
of
summer.
July, we always do. Yes.
Yep. So I have two great books to tell about for giving as hostess gifts or for doing entertaining yourself. The first one is called Icebox Cakes, Recipes for the Coolest Cakes in Town by Jean Sagendorf. Now, if you're not familiar with what an icebox cake is, it is
then you're not from Kansas City, Missouri.
Then it's a cake that's made without turning on the oven, which, as you know, during the summer is a wonderful thing to be able to make. They're usually made with cookies or pre-made cake and puddings and
peach ice cream. My mother made with peaches and
all kinds of stuff. So
sounds good.
It's an incredible collection of different icebox cakes. We grew up with one in my family that we made in the summertime, and it was chocolate wafer cookies and whipped cream.
The roll.
The roll.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, we did that too.
We called it zebra cake. So my
cute.
aunt would make one of those every summer, and it was the highlight of my
childhood.
childhood.
You put it in the refrigerator, you take it out. It is fabulous.
It's amazing. So this is a
sounds
whole
good.
collection. Lots of fun.
Good.
The other one is called Milk Bar Life by Christine Tozy of Momofuku Milk Bar in the city, which is a restaurant and
that's a
bakery
big
chain.
deal.
It's a big deal. She has an incredibly visually graphic cookbook that just came out. It's a lot of fun. There's great...
How hard?
Not hard. It's almost like a primer, and there's lots of nostalgic recipes in there and just really good one-bowl baking projects, really good late-night snacking, you know, having your girlfriends over, maybe having a sleepover while you're visiting with some girlfriends. Great things to make in there.
So nice.
A really fun cookbook. Good to give, but also good to have for yourself.
Okay, so that's a good start. You're on, Miss Susan.
Okay, all the books that I prepared for today are all fiction books. Okay,
Right.
so these are great books to bring to the beach, to bring on an airplane, to bring on vacation, to share with your friends. Okay, the first one was just released on the 9th, so it's 3 days old, and it's called The Truth According to Us by Annie Burroughs. Now, you might know Annie Burroughs from her previous big bestseller called The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society.
Yeah, we talked
Remember
about
that?
Yeah.
Great book, great book. Well, if you liked that book, you'll like this one too. It's set in 1938, where a senator's daughter is assigned to work for the Public Works program, where she is going to be sent out to West Virginia, and she has to write a history of this little tiny town. And of course, what she uncovers is a lot deeper than what everybody would like her to write. You know, this big popular thing praising all the first families of Macedonia, West Virginia.
And she
instead, she finds all the little secrets in the skeletons.
Terrific.
She is housed with a family that has a 12-year-old daughter named Willa, who reminds me so much of Scout. So people who liked the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society will love The Truth According to Us.
That is a long title. Okay.
It is.
The Truth According to Us is a little bit better, right?
It is.
Okay.
Very charming.
And what else? You got a second one there?
Oh, I do. All right. Another one that I really liked is also brand new, and it's called Best Boy by Eli Gottlieb. And this book is told through the eyes of a 50-ish-year-old man who is on the autism spectrum, and he has been living for almost his entire life in various facilities. And it's told through his eyes. So this book is really, really great for people who loved The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Really fabulous, wonderful, wonderful book. I couldn't put it down.
I read that book, then saw the play, and loved.
How was the play? Was it good?
Phenomenal. And the young man who plays him just won the Tony. He is fabulous. It's
Oh, that's
impossible
great.
to believe that he's not on the spectrum.
Okay. Well, this is very realistic, very, very good.
Best boy.
Best boy. What happens to him in this book is he's living in a facility, like little cottages, and they have their own chores and all that sort of thing. And he meets a young woman who also lives in the cottages, and she persuades him to stop taking his medication on the sly. So there are lots of consequences to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on, madam.
All right. So my number one fiction book for the summer is the book that I'm currently reading, and incidentally, so is Susan. It's called
Great minds. Great
Yeah,
minds.
think alike.
In the Unlikely Event by Judy Blume.
Oh, I'm going to put that definitely on the list.
Wonderful.
She is so fantastic, and that's the one
is.
in New Jersey where
Yes.
This takes place in 1950s New Jersey.
it really
It
happened.
really did happen. These are events that, while this is a work of fiction, these events did happen in the author's life. During a period of 2 months, there were 3 commercial airline crashes in the near vicinity of Elizabeth, New Jersey. Well, commercial air travel was very new. And this had such an impact on her as a young girl that she wrote this. It's quite a sizable book. She wrote the story of a young girl named Mira and how this series of plane crashes affected her as well as the community and other members of her family. Susan and I both just started the book, so
Is it on tape? Books on tape as well?
I believe it is.
I may do it
It
that
is
way
available
too.
on tape.
It's a long book, though. It will be a lot of discs.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Judy Blume she mostly writes for children. She's a beloved children's book
They
author.
say people who see her on the street stop, smile, say, "You're my child."
I saw her
Are
on an
you there,
airplane
God?
once.
It's me, Margaret.
Oh,
right?
who could
You
not?
know,
That's right.
yeah.
Probably one of the best.
Generations and generations of
And it's
adult women
still-
have read that book.
And it holds up.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Oh,
It does.
And Blubber.
Right.
They're still reading them. I read
Yep.
them when I was growing up, and
Exactly.
my
We
all
daughter
did.
read them
Yeah.
10 years
So
ago.
this is
and we're
one
reading them
for
today.
us as an adult.
Exactly.
Yes.
And she doesn't write adult books too often, so this is a much awaited adult book for Judy Blume fans.
All right.
My next title is Enchanted August by Brenda Bowen. I always have to give a recommendation about a reinvented classic. So this is a reinvention of Enchanted April, which was written in 1922 by Josie von Arnim.
That sounds familiar.
And then made into a
August.
fabulous movie. So, of course, Enchanted April takes place in Italy. It's 4 British women that go to Italy and let out a house together for the month of April. This is a retelling, and it's 4 New York City women that go to an island in Maine and rent a house together for the month of August. And it's transformative for all of them in a wonderfully positive way.
Terrific.
And it's a fun book. And if you like Enchanted April, or if you like reading classics that have been rewritten, which I do, obviously, I always recommend
actually
one.
followed your. There was several of them.
Yes, yes.
And really, very, very.
It's fun. It's a fun summer read because you know the story. It's just a contemporary version of it. So,
Terrific.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
That
And
sounds great.
your next fiction is?
My next fiction is called Some Luck by Jane Smiley.
Oh.
Now, this is the first book out of a trilogy, and they just released the second book, okay? But Some Luck, it's such an engrossing book. It starts out in the 1920s in Iowa, and each chapter is a separate year in the life of this Iowa family of farmers, and they end up having 5 children. And so it progresses from the 1920s and it ends in the 1950s, early 1950s. So, I mean, if you think about, they didn't have electricity in the very beginning of the
that's
book,
good.
and
They
at
went
the
through the
end of the
Depression.
book, now they've just gone through World War II, So there's a tremendous progression. The second book is called Early Warning and just was released.
And it starts in
So
the 50s?
It starts in 1954. Right, so it's really very good, and it's not one of those action-packed sort of a book. Some chapters are very leisurely. What's the farming and the chafing and the wheat and the this and the
She's
that,
quite a
the
nice
animals.
writer. I mean-
and then other chapters, there's spies going on and things, the Cold War and things like that. So it's really an enjoyable book.
McCarthyism.
Right. So it's very, very enjoyable. But now I have one for the guys, I think. It's more of a guy book, I think, although I tend to like those types of books. And it's called Gathering Prey by John Sandford. John Sandford has written 25 novels with all the word prey in the title, P-R-E-Y.
Huh.
Okay? And they focus on a detective called, well, not a detective, he's a police detective, I guess, Lucas Davenport and his family, and they get into these really weird situations. In this one, his daughter is approached by a woman who is a traveler. Now, travelers are like modern-day gypsies, okay? And they roam throughout the United States, but there is this horrible serial killer called Pilot who is targeting the travelers.
Wow.
So it's very exciting. There's a lot of murders, there's car chases, there's all kinds of things like that. If you'd like a really action-packed novel, try Gathering Prey.
Okay, I got to throw one in.
Okay.
I read, we did for our book club, Someone by Alice McDermott.
Love Alice McDermott.
She's
The
wonderful.
writing, I can't tell you. It was not, there was no one who really didn't just fall in love with her writing. It's about a regular woman, an Irish-American woman who lives in this wonderful, very close community. And she's kind of got these big glasses. She sits on the stoop waiting for her dad to come home. And you go through her life. Through, she has a brother who at one point decides to be a priest, a father who is
He
not-
drinks, doesn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
he drinks. And it's just wonderful, well-written, and it really, it's little enough you can just throw it in your purse and take it with you, and I think it's a fabulous read.
It reminded me a little bit of, what's the one with Francine Nolan that we talked about as a possible book group?
Tree grows in
Oh,
Tree
Tree
Grows in
Grows
Brooklyn.
yeah.
It-
That's
there's
a
a
good point, 'cause
flavor-
she's
there's
in,
a flavor
and you get to see all the
similar
different
like that,
people.
yeah.
And she gets that job in the where she's in a position that the people who die in the mortuary, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Oh my God! It just really, I loved it. So I highly recommend, and I think it was. Actually, it was a finalist for the National Book Award.
And she's the author of Charming Billy, which is one of my
Oh, yeah.
all-time
Great
favorite
book.
books.
Charming
Great
Billy. If you haven't read Charming
Amazing.
Billy, you
Yes.
should definitely, right.
Yes.
And my second one is kind of interesting, Euphoria. Euphoria, believe it or not, was chosen as one of the 10 best books from the New York Times 2014. And I hadn't read it. And it's Margaret Mead on an adventure with her second husband, where she meets her third husband. But hey, anyway, it is.
She's a lusty one, huh?
That's exactly right. But it's the Times called it an exquisite novel, and it's got her ambition, her desires. It's really quite something, and very intelligently, obviously, written by Lily King. I would definitely recommend this. It is fiction, and yet it's that fiction that has truth, which I think is fascinating.
Well, I have a great follow-up to that.
Okay.
Great.
Since we're talking about Margaret Mead, this is written by a modern-day anthropologist. Her name is Wednesday Martin, and the name of the book is called Primates of Park Avenue.
Oh, right. Oh,
Yes.
big brouhaha over that book.
Brouhaha over this book. So she's really a sociologist, and this is a tale, a personal memoir of assimilating into the New York City's
Because she
Upper
moves
East
from the
Side.
village to the Upper East Side.
Correct.
Okay.
And the premise of her book is that she spent several years studying the women of the Upper East Side in a very anthropological way, and has written a study of what goes on in these women's lives, the types of
The wife bonus.
the wife bonus.
The wife bonus
and
blew my mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
That's hysterical,
it's
isn't
a
it?
great gossipy type of beach read. Now, there was an article recently in the New York Times
That it was
about
a little
that
exaggerated?
that there seems to be some possible exaggerations or inaccuracies in it. I don't think that's going to take away from the enjoyment of reading it, but it's important to point
She
that out
was-
to readers. It may not be as much nonfiction as it's being marketed.
She was a very smart woman. She got out of town, went over to the West Side. From what I understand, she now
Very
lives on
smart.
the Upper West Side. But I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think people will enjoy reading it,
It's
especially
kind
on
of a stereotypical. I mean,
Reminds you know that, what was it called, The Nanny? The
Oh,
Nannies?
right, that was a big Nanny Diaries.
There's a similar feeling to it, yeah.
Sort of like
yeah.
an insider's tell-all type of.
And the fact that she was an anthropologist, I mean, and the title alone is...
Yes.
Right,
Primates.
exactly.
Yeah.
So to sort of paired with that book, my next nonfiction title is called So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson. And this book looks at the recent, maybe not so recent, but very prevalent in our times now, the phenomenon of public shaming. When people that are public figures, not necessarily hugely public figures, but authors and columnists and politicians and
We
all
talked about
kinds
Brian
of people.
Williams.
Brian Williams is a perfect example of what happens when they make a mistake, use poor judgment, or are really caught outright in a lie or plagiarism. Being caught in that position, of course, is, as we all know, is terrible. We watch their careers disintegrate in front of us on TV. But there's a tsunami of public shaming that goes on social media, and
What's
it's
her name
instantaneous.
has been going all over talking, Monica.
Monica Lewinsky.
Yes.
That you had
exactly.
mentioned. Monica Lewinsky
Yes.
has been talking about, I mean, she was so young,
20.
and everybody really came down on her versus Bill,
Right.
which was fascinating. When I saw her, my
Disturbing.
heart kind of, I really felt for her, and I can't believe I did.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have girls, and my girls are older now, but come on.
Yeah, she was extremely young when that happened.
And that was the President of the United States, I mean.
And this book does a series of case studies, and he went around and he talked to these people that this has happened to and how it's changed their lives and their regrets and gotten them to talk to him about what happened. You know,
Can you move
how did you end
forward?
up in this position and what are you doing now?
Yeah.
And he's a wonderful writer. He's very funny, actually. So the way that he tells the story, I mean, I found myself laughing out loud, and not laughing at the people that it happened to, but just laughing at some of his observations. So it's a quick and easy nonfiction read, and at the same time there's lots of very interesting stories and social commentary about what our society is about now. And he says that shaming is now a form of social control, this type of public shaming that we see.
Well,
it's an interesting...
you see on the internet now, these people say these things. I mean, they're not necessarily true, and they make these statements, and it can really, and it's a form of bullying, really.
It is a form of bullying.
That's a good way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you defend yourself? So now that's called public.
It's called So You've Been Publicly Shamed
Okay.
by John Ronson.
Sounds good.
It's a good one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You're
Now
up
I have
again.
my next one is one that you have mentioned several times to me.
Oh.
One of your favorites, The Nightingale.
Love
now this
that
is one of the most popular books in the Westchester Library system
It
these
is.
days,
It
I
is.
think.
It is,
You know.
so easy to read and so heartfelt.
Yes.
And I have been reading I read Winter Garden. I keep
Okay.
reading her books, Kirsten
Well,
Hanna.
Kristen
Uh,
Hanna.
Kristen.
Kristen Hanna has written a lot of fluffier types of books, and this one, it has a fluffy aspect to it, but a much, much deeper storyline underneath. This takes place in the 1930s in a town called Carriveau, France, just as the Nazis are starting to move into France.
And there's those two sisters.
Vianne's husband, Antoine, is off fighting the Germans, and her sister has come to live with her, and her sister joins the resistance. And so it is a very exciting book. There's lots of drama and terror and moments of slowness where you think, what's coming next? This is a wonderful, wonderful book. When I heard it was by Kristen Hanna, I thought, this is going to be light. This is going to be a fun book. It's not a light, fun book. It
Even
appears
at the
to be.
end, oh my God, the ending.
The ending was very, very emotional.
Very
I thought.
emotional.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I have read, I tell you, I read Winter Garden, and I had to stop. I found myself really tearing up.
Yeah.
That book, because the one sister has children.
Yes.
And it's scary. At one point, there's a Nazi living in there.
That's right. 2 points.
2 points.
2
yeah.
points. Yeah. Very, very frightening.
If our listeners have not read Nightingale. Boy, that's a
Yes.
great summer.
Now, I actually listened to that one, and the reader has this lovely French accent. So it's just a charming book to listen to.
Wow.
So if you have the opportunity to listen to it rather than visually reading it, it enhances the experience.
Terrific.
And my next one is also a little, well, this one is a little bit lighter, and it's Nora Roberts' book called The Liar. Okay, her newest one. It is just what you expect from Nora Roberts. Nora Roberts is not that big into heavy-duty, complex plots. Her plots are fairly straightforward, and this book is no exception.
And she's always on the best seller list, always.
She's written over 200 novels. This woman is prolific. But the really great thing about Nora Roberts' books is you love her characters. Her characters are so well developed and they're fun and you just fall in love with them. And so you can't wait to see what's happening next to them. So if you like a book like that where you just get drawn into this community, The Liar is for you.
Okay.
All right. Well, I have two mystery thriller books to talk about.
Good. My
And
favorites.
This is really Susan's category. She loves mysteries and thrillers, but I got an okay from her on both of them. Nelson DeMille, who most people will know, has a new book out this summer. It's called.
He's so
fantastic.
He makes you get into that. You can't put it down.
I call them.
And he's a nice man, too.
Is he?
Yeah,
He's
he really
a good
is.
speaker as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
I call them insomnia books. You cannot.
You can't sleep.
If you're going to read a Nelson DeMille book, start it on a Friday because you're not going to go to sleep.
He's right. That's very
You're
good.
not going to go to sleep, so you might as well just read all the way through and get some sleep on Sunday night. His latest book is called Radiant Angel, and it's featuring John Corey, who is, at this point, I think he's almost writing exclusively John Corey books. And John Corey was first introduced in Plum Island, which was
that was a
great
fabulous book.
one of my favorite mysteries of all time. He's not a New York City detective anymore, but at the time in Plum Island, he was a New York City detective. And John Corey, we followed him through his career, through his love life, through all kinds of international crises. He's so funny. He's such a well-written character. I feel like I know John Corey, and I am so excited to read Radiant Angel this summer. This time he's actually retired, and he thinks he's gotten sort of a cushy job. He's doing diplomatic surveillance, but of course, nothing is ever as smooth as it seems. And while surveilling these Russian diplomats, one of them is abducted, and it turns out he was actually an operative that was placed in a diplomatic position. And John Corey uncovers an incredible threat to the United States on the brink of the new Cold War. So it's timely, and it should be a great read as long as you start on a Friday.
All right, get going. Come on.
Okay, the next one I have.
Are we running out of time?
Okay. This is a recommendation from the library publicist, Jeff Colquitt. He just finished it last night and came into work.
That's the best
talking all about it. It's called All the Old Knives by Olin Steinhauer.
All the Old Knives?
All the Old Knives. It takes place.
Like these.
It's a conversation between two people at a restaurant 5 years after a tragedy. Now, they've agreed to meet at this restaurant 5 years ago, and they're there and they're having a conversation. And you would think that this would not be an exciting and moving book, but it is, because the action is all told in flashbacks. And you hear about this tragedy that happened from both of their points of view. You're sympathetic to both of them. It appeals to both men and women. There's an incredible plot twist in the end. And Jeff said it's just like a John le Carré novel, and he couldn't recommend it anything higher. So it's on my list to read this summer.
All right.
Okay. Well, I know we have to speed up. So Leaving Time by Jodi Picoult. Everybody loves Jodi Picoult. What a fabulous writer. She writes these theme-driven, topical sorts of novels that
the one with the
go
kidney
right
where
inside.
they had to give or whatever that. Oh.
In this one, 13-year-old Jenna is trying to discover what happened to her mother, who disappeared. Her mother had been a researcher, a scientific researcher of grief in elephants. And after a terrible, tragic accident in an elephant conservation compound, the mother goes to the hospital and disappears from the hospital. So Jenna's trying to find out. And so she hires a private investigator. She's only 13 years old, and a psychic to try and figure out what happened. and it has an amazingly unusual twist to the end of the novel that's just fabulous. So you have to give that one a quick shot. A personal favorite book of mine is called Brewster by Mark Sluka. I was blown away by this book. I did not expect it to be deep or anything like that. It is set in 1968, so flower power is just kind of starting. 16-year-old John is the son of German immigrant parents. They live in Brewster, New York, just like me.
Hey.
And he becomes very good friends with the kid in his class who is always getting into fights. And they form this very tight friendship which lasts and lasts. And the only thing I can think of that draws them together is that they both have very difficult family lives. And then there's a terrible, tragic thing that happens to them, and you have to read the book to find out about it. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Very surprising in its depth.
Wow. Now, libraries this summer, I mean, I know you guys have several things going on there.
We sure do.
You have...
Wonderful children's summer reading games that go on all summer.
and you have a list.
We've got a list of books for them to read. We encourage them to read in different genres, and of course they can earn prizes and raffle
I was going to
tickets.
say, they used to get stars, but now you would do a whole thing.
And we have the program, so we have it for children and teens, and this is our third summer at the Larchmont Public Library doing the Adult Summer Reading Challenge.
Great.
It's getting more and more popular each year, and our Summer Reading Challenge for adults this year is called War and Remembrance, and there are books from all the different wars that the United States has participated in, and you can read in different categories and earn prizes. So
Terrific, and I know you have...
a lot of fun.
We do too. The theme of the New York State reading game is about heroes. And so we've had all kinds of programs about heroes in our lives, you know, including firefighters, including political figures, including all kinds of famous people, and including librarians and
Great.
and other veterinarians and everybody else.
Terrific,
You know,
terrific.
there's a hero in all of us, and it's really a fun series of programs that we have for all
Both
the
of
kids.
these places are cool, they're quiet, they
Air
are
conditioned.
air conditioned. They're just lovely, and I mean, we're just so blessed to have
Yes.
not just both of you, but your physical places as well.
The library system is just wonderful.
It is, and I feel so fortunate. I'm there all the time, but we have just a couple more minutes. Is there anything that you didn't get to?
I have one more book.
Okay.
This is called Us by David Nichols. In Us, Douglas Peterson, who is a scientist with a beautiful, glamorous wife, they've been planning this wonderful summer trip for the entire summer with their son before he goes off to college. And just before the trip, the wife turns around to him and says, "I think I want a divorce." Okay, so now they're going off on this trip, and he is determined to win her over during this trip. So it's a very bittersweet sort of a book, and really enjoyable. And I like the travel aspect because they go to Amsterdam and Paris and Venice and Barcelona and
Terrific.
all these fun places where they have all kinds of misadventures. It's a great book.
And do you have a last one? Are
I
you,
do.
okay.
I'll just say very quickly, Big Little Lies by Leanne
Oh,
Moriarty.
I've read that. Yeah.
I know you
Fun,
both
fun
read
book.
it. Fun book.
Not a brilliant, not a
Great beach
literary.
It's not deep, but it's great.
It is.
Three
it is.
different women, very different stages in their life. And there's a
It's
thriller.
big surprise, and I got to tell you, that's another one. I just kept reading.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it
Yeah,
down.
couldn't put it
so- and the list that you gave us last, I went through every one. I want you to know, and I adored them. I can't tell you how many people talked to me about it, and I thank you, Laura. I thank you, Susan.
This is the best part of our job, is to share books with people in the community.
Well, it's a highlight for
So,
us too. So
yeah.
promise we'll keep on doing this.
Always.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
thank you guys for watching out there. Take note of all the books and have a wonderful summer. Stay cool and don't forget to read. See you next time. Bye-bye.